YouTube, what is up? James MTG Biggie here, and today I'm going to make a video that is just going to be focused and based on one thing, and that's Dominaria. Everybody knows that our next set coming up, that our next standard set, not counting Masters 25, is Dominaria, taking Magic back to the plane where it originated and bringing hopefully back a whole lot of nostalgia and a lot of positive feelings for a lot of Magic players that have been around for a long time. I personally am not a big story guy. I don't really follow the Magic story as closely as I probably should. I pick up the pieces here and there that I hear through talk from other players who are more into it and through watching content a little bit about it. But beyond that, I don't typically read the story so much. I just kind of go by a second-hand information for the most part. I do enjoy the art. I enjoy the characters to an extent. Obviously, everybody's kind of sick of seeing Jace and Chandra and Liliana or whatever. But I'm not the sort that talks a lot or puts a lot of investment into the story of Magic. However, I started playing Magic back in like 2000, 2001, around the Mercadian Mask block era, and things were centered and based in Dominaria and around Dominaria around the time that I was playing for a good portion of it. And that feeling of Magic from when I started playing when I was a kid, like 13 or 14 years old, it holds a very, special place in my heart. Like many things do when you get older, you become nostalgic for the things that were in your life when you were younger. It happens to everybody, and it's a powerful drug, nostalgia. So Dominaria to me is a set that I'm very excited for, and it's a set that I'm looking forward to for a number of things. One, to be a very good, high quality, high power level standard set that will make a standard environment that is much more fun and much more engaging, and that everybody can enjoy and play and have a good time with. We finally are getting rid of Kaladesh block when it comes out, so we won't have to worry about energy anymore at all, and we get to go back to playing Magic the way that honestly Magic was meant to be played. I feel like the extreme mechanics from Kaladesh, like energy and those mechanics that are incredibly block specific, that are specifically used for a specific block because of story or whatever the case may be, I feel like those aren't always good for the game. Sometimes they turn out just fine and it's a lot of fun. And these are the ones that are like very minor and not really super impactful, that are fine, like in Cons of Tarkir, Raid. Raid was a fine mechanic. Outlast was a fine mechanic. Pretty bad, but fine. It didn't make anybody hate Standard. Energy, however, made everybody kind of hate Standard. So I'm going to talk about some things that I want and I hope to be true in Dominaria, and things that I wish would happen for the set and in Dominaria in general. And I have a loose list, but I'm not going to really stick super hard to the script here. I'm just going to, in no specific order, talk about some things that I would like to see in the set. First, I'll talk about the art direction of Magic. I would like to see some art that is a little bit reminiscent and has a bit of a throwback feel to the sort of like late 90s, early 2000s feel of artwork. Lately, Magic the Gathering, the art is so well produced and high quality, but it's also the majority of it is computerized images, which is fine. Computer generated graphics and images and computer made art it has a nice, clean, crisp, solid, very like precise look about it, but part of me misses back when you could look at the art of a card and find and pick out the brush strokes and observe the very mechanical, worked on by hands with very archaic instruments sort of look to it. I'm not saying like Alpha Beta Unlimited era art, because I think that art's great, but it is absolutely art of another time that doesn't hold up as well today. But there's some sort of middle ground in Magic that doesn't get a lot of love, and that's like the 2000s era, like the Mercadian Mask, Invasion, Odyssey, Onslaught block. When I was in my heyday, personally, this is going to be very selfish and personal for me, but the art was fantastic. The art on cards like Rashadan Port, or like Wild Mongrel, or Basking Rootwalla is very well done and well put together art, but it has a different feel and different look to it. Some of the core set art, like the 7th edition Birds of Paradise art, is that's a card that comes to mind where I love that artwork. I love that artwork so much because it embodies a time for me, and this sort of sweet spot where the artwork was of a much higher quality, but not super homogenized yet. So that's thing number one. Not number one in order of importance, but the first thing I'll talk about is the artwork. I hope that they have a little bit more of a throwback feel to it. Like the Urza's Saga block, that entire block, the artwork is incredible. That's the sort of artwork I look forward to hopefully seeing, and hopefully the art director for Wizards and for Magic kind of made a point to talk about that to the artist and to try to bring that feel back, at least at some capacity. So that's that. Moving on. Less focus on planeswalkers. I mean, the cards themselves, but also the superhero stories of, like, I don't want this to be another Jace saves the day sort of story. So we get either like a super mediocre Jace, which is what they've been in the last couple, or a super powerful over the top Jace, like Jace Vryn's Prodigy or the Mind Sculptor or whatever. I hope there's less focus on the Planeswalkers, on the Gatewatch, on the story revolving around the Planeswalkers. Like, I already heard from watching the Magic Mike's podcast that in the story, I guess Jace, at the end of the Ixalan story, kind of pimped off to Dominaria. That's where it said he was headed, so I'm sure we'll see Jace. I just hope it's not a Jace-centric story. And I hope that the Planeswalker cards, because they're going to have to make Planeswalker cards, I hope that they're either so absurdly forgetful or forgettable and of like a very mediocre quality that nobody really cares about them, so they're not super highly visible everywhere. Thinking of like Watley or the last Ajani, like nobody cared. Who cares about Ajani? I hope that they're either so super fucking mediocre and forgettable, pardon my language, but this is off the top of my head, that there's not a focus on them and you don't see them a lot in gameplay, or the ones that are there are really important and do a lot for the story, and it's not just about Jace. We'll see. So that's that. Let's focus on Planeswalkers, cards, and the characters of the recent story. Moving on to more of the actual cards. I hope that Dominaria sees the return of classic style hate cards. Cards like Choke, like Boil. I know it's not going to happen, but Blood Moon would be like, what comes to mind when I think of these cards. Cards that say purposefully screw that color and what it does, or screw that type of card, or screw that deck. Just real gritty, to the point hate cards. It's been a little while since we've seen that. And to a lesser degree, cards like Pithing Needle, or even like a Phyrexian Revoker style card. Obviously, like, they're not going to do exact Phyrexian Revoker, but like creatures that do hate stuff. Cards that hate out certain things. Instants and enchantments and sorceries that specifically screw over other colors or other strategies on purpose to create that sort of like, I have a bomb in my sideboard for this matchup and it's going to be super sweet to stop whatever ridiculous powerful thing my opponent's doing. I like hate cards. I play Death and Taxes. I play archetype also known as Hate Bears. I hope we see some good Hate Bears. I hope that maybe I selfishly get a mono white creature or two that I can consider playing in Modern or Legacy Death and Taxes. It's me being stubborn again, but I'll admit that. Hopefully there's some real hate in the Dominaria cards. Beyond that, talking about reprints, I hope that they come with the nostalgia hard. Obviously, I talked about the art nostalgia, but the specific card nostalgia, either callbacks to other important cards from back in the day, or actually printing cards that were special and meaningful back in the day. And I guess this sort of ties in with the next topic I was going to talk about, and that's reprinting just cards that are generically really powerful. The very specific tuning of the power level over the last couple years has become a little ridiculous. It feels like when they printed Lightning Strike back in the standard and everybody was super excited about it for Mono Red, that felt bad. Lightning Strike's not a good Magic card. It's fine, but the fact that people were excited for a card as good as Lightning Strike to be printed in the standard again is silly. So I hope they print some cards that are nostalgic and iconic and mean something to the playing of Dominaria and to the players that were playing a lot while Dominaria was important in the story of Magic. And I hope they print cards that are generically powerful. I mean cards like Lightning Bolt. Forget Lightning Strike, give me 1 mana, 3 damage to the dome or to a creature. Lana War Elves. This whole obsession or this whole like hard stance on no 1 mana dorks and green is silly to me. Give me Birds of Paradise. Give me a color fixing 1 mana dork. I mean, the fact that they've turned away and turned their backs on these powerful cards that are super iconic and that mean a lot to the game, it feels bad. It feels weird when like your mana ramp creature in green is a 2-drop that either has a drawback or does something that's very, very specific, like Servant of the Conduit. It has a drawback and is really specific. Give me generically powerful stuff to do. Like I said, Lightning Bolt, Lana War Elves, Birds of Paradise. You don't have to go as far as like cards like Dark Ritual, because that's just insanely powerful. I'm not asking for Demonic Tutor, but perhaps Counterspell. Seriously, 2 mana counter target spell. Sure, it makes blue decks probably really good, but if the other colors get spells that are very powerful and very effectively costed, it shouldn't matter if blue has Counterspell. If red has Lightning Bolt, blue could have Counterspell. If blue has Counterspell, green can have Lana War Elves or Birds of Paradise. If green has Lana War Elves or Birds of Paradise, white can have... Alright, who knows what white can have? Honestly, white has always been kind of the least powerful color. But a powerful white card that is iconic and a reprint. Like, I would say Savannah Lions, but they've already broke Savannah Lions by just printing way better Savannah Lions. So, Swords to Plowshares. There we go. Give me Swords to Plowshares in Standard. Why not? If red gets Lightning Bolt and green gets Birds of Paradise and blue gets Counterspell, give me Swords to Plowshares in white. Black, give them Doomblade. Give them Terror. Give them Vampiric Tutor even. You know what? Forget about it. Give them Vampiric Tutor. Demonic Tutor is probably too good, but give them the 1 mana with a drawback and see how things go. Why not? It's an opportunity to tune the power level back up and to put some powerful spells back into Standard and back into Magic. Not everything has to be block-specific, mechanic-oriented, like energy like Harness the Lightning, or Servant of the Conduit, or glimmer of genius, the card draw card. Give me, like, Muldrifter in blue. Why not? It just seems silly to me. I'm not asking for Ancestral or Demonic Tutor. I'm not asking for Force of Will. I'm not asking for, like, even, like, Fire Blast or Price of Progress. But generically powerful cards, and that ties into the nostalgic factor. If I saw Birds of Paradise in Standard again, it would feel insanely good. It would be really fun to be able to have access to that in a Standard environment. It also provides this opportunity to maybe introduce some cards into Modern that weren't there before. Counterspell is one of them. I know they just unbanned Jace the Mind Sculptor and everybody's freaking out about that being too good and blue being too good, but screw it. Give us Counterspell too. Why not? Or you know what? Daze is probably fine in Modern. It gives Delver decks a boost, which they kind of need. Delver hasn't been good in Modern in like 2 years. So a card like Daze, I think, is fine for Modern. It's a card that, on paper, isn't that much better than a card like Force Spike. I mean, it's insanely good, but the tempo swing is real from returning a land to your hand. And I think when Modern's full of decks that can win between turns 3 and 5, like Storm, Dredge basically can win that quickly. All these Collected Company combo decks with Vizier of Remedies and Devoted Druid decks win on like turn 4, turn 3 sometimes possible. Tron that can turn 3 Tron into the other version of this guy here, Karn. Like, if you could do that, if Tron has the ability to go Urza's Mine, Urza's Tower, Urza's Power Plant, slam Karn, why shouldn't we be able to daze a Karn in Modern? Like, they get to do that. That's something they have the access to do. Why can't we daze that? Why not? Put that card in Standard. It'll go through Standard in a couple years and then be played in Modern, and that's fine. So yeah, some nostalgic, powerful cards reprinted. Even if they're not good by the current standards of Magic the Gathering. Wild Mongrel is a card that I love for this long and storied history I have with that card and with the Blue-Green Madness deck that it was in. It would be cool to see. Nobody would play it in Standard, really, but to see that printed at common or uncommon even in the set just because, why not? There could be some sort of synergy built where discarding matters into the set or where your graveyard matters, and Wild Mongrel could be a thing. They've functionally reprinted it in Standard recently with that snake version of it or whatever, so why not? Beyond that, mechanics. Very specific mechanics I would like to see back. Nothing brand new and overtly powerful like energy. I don't really care to see vehicles. I think vehicles were cool and sweet, like an idea before, but unless it is the Skyship Weatherlight, I don't want a vehicle card in Standard and Dominaria or whatever. But mechanics like cycling, classic mechanics, buyback would be a very interesting mechanic to see return. Threshold is a mechanic that I've always kind of enjoyed. You could do Threshold and make Threshold pretty powerful and also print Graveyard Hate for it. You can give us a Relic of Progenitus effect or Rest in Peace effect and have Threshold matter, and I feel that would create a very dynamic gameplay in Standard that maybe we haven't seen before. Things like that. Some sort of functional reanimator type shenanigans would be cool to see in Standard because that's a big part of the history of Magic. I mean, there's a whole number of other mechanics. Madness, but they just did Madness and it was super underwhelming and nobody cared. I was excited to see Madness come back. I saw Fiery Tempered spoiled and I was like, what? And then Madness was absolutely kind of really unplayable and not interesting. The Vampire deck didn't really get there, and it was sad to see like a mechanic that I very specifically loved was not that great. Maybe bring it back and do justice to Madness. Just the amount of, like, the entire pile of mechanics and cards and the iconic sort of feeling that you can bring in this set. This could be the set that brings all of us old guys who are still playing Magic, who are your core audience now, people that were playing in the late 90s, mid 90s, early 2000s, that either left and returned to the game or stuck around in the game. We're the core audience for a big percentage of your demographic, and bringing back these very iconic mechanics, iconic cards, this iconic looking artwork would do wonders for the feeling about your game and how much nostalgia matters. Just right now, it seems like things are going through this, like in pop culture in general, this huge nostalgia boom where things from the 80s were really popular, coming back and returning and being very noticeable and being very successful. And now it's been the 90s lately. They're bringing back classic 90s TV shows. There's new shows that are based in the 90s coming out. There are people who really love the things from their childhood for reasons. They're bringing back cartoons from the 90s. Animaniacs is returning. Your game was created in the 90s. Now is time to strike when the iron is hot. During your 25th anniversary, returning to a plane where the game originated, having the opportunity to reprint important, impactful, nostalgic, and powerful cards, and making the game feel a little bit more like it used to, just because there is a sort of weird feeling about the game right now. Over the last year and a half, Magic the Gathering has gone through this sort of low point. I still love and adore the game, and I play it religiously. I play Standard, I play Modern, I dedicate a lot of time to making YouTube videos about the game. That's not going to change, but it doesn't feel as good as it did when I started playing again, when I got in 2014 during Cons of Tarkir. That felt really good. It was a good feel, and it drew me back into the game, and I've stayed around. I can't say the same if I had jumped back into the game in mid-2017. If I jumped in during Kaladesh block and energy was a thing, I don't know that I would stick around as long, or that I would be that immediately ready to fully devote a lot of my time to the game and a lot of my money to the game. This is an opportunity to recapture the hearts and minds of a lot of either like players on a break, players who have become disenfranchised with the current way that the game has been going over the last year and a half, with Standard, with the weird power level, with the amount of decisions and then mind changing that's happened. Like, weird decisions are made and then they pull it back and undo them. Just like the last year and a half of weirdness and bad feels or whatever can completely be undone, or at least to some percent be undone, by making Dominaria the best possible nostalgic set that you can make it. And hopefully that's what they've done. I know it's too late now, and seeing this video is not going to do anything to change what's already there. This is just my hopes and my wants and my wish list for Dominaria specifically. So hopefully, guys, that's what we get. Let me know what you guys want from Dominaria. Let me know what you guys think about what I've proposed for it. And let me know how you feel about Magic in general lately, and how you hope to see it take shape over the next year. I think it's going to be an exciting year for Magic, and I'm hopeful that things go better in the moving into quarter 2 of 2018 than they did all through 2017 and a little bit at the end of 2016. So here's hoping. I have confidence that they can do it. Let's see Lightning Bolt in Standard again. Let's see Birds of Paradise and all those other things that made the game great and fun and drew a lot of us in. Beyond that, guys, I don't have much else to say. Please comment down below and like and subscribe and share and tell your friends. Also, follow me on Twitter at MTGBiggie, and I look forward to hearing from all of you again very soon.